Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from ccan5697 from the True Off My Chest subreddit and says, I think I'm going to have to end things with the man I love because I don't want kids. This might be long because I'm overwhelmed and can ramble, so I've added a TLDR at the bottom. I'm sorry. My 30 female boyfriend, 34 male, and I have been together for the last 4 years. Our first date was basically our whole life stories and just talking about everything and anything, whether it be deep or not. I would say most of our relationship has been this way. Even when we fight, which has maybe happened a couple of times, we will take a break and regroup once emotions settle. When we disagree, we talk it through. He looks at me like I'm the most beautiful person he's ever seen. He constantly tells me how lucky he is to have me and how I deserve the world. We both love to cook and clean for the other person, so we always have different games set up and the loser gets to relax while the winner gets to pamper the loser. I know it sounds weird, but it works for us. I love this man so much and I know he loves me just as much. Now, here's the problem. A couple of months into dating, kids got brought up. Communication is super important to me and him, so I told him I didn't want kids. He thought I was joking because all my friends and siblings have kids at this point and I'm the fun Tia, auntie. I even put together parties for the kids and fun themed days when I'm having one-on-one time with them. I do love kids, but I don't want any of my own. I explained that and he said, well, maybe you haven't met the right guy. I had to sit him down and explain that while I do believe people can change, he cannot be with me expecting my opinion about kids to change. He needs to take my not wanting kids at face value instead of hoping that I will change my mind. Because what if I don't change my mind? I asked him to think it through for a week or two, and then we can circle back to the topic because at this point, we are thinking about being official. But if kids were that important to him, then we needed to stop now before it gets much harder down the line. He told me later that kids are not that important to him, and that he can see a future without kids in it. Fast forward to a month ago. His parents and some extended family were visiting for my boyfriend's brother's wedding. We're in the US and his family is from Eastern Europe. I've always gotten along with his parents and brother, plus brother's now wife. His parents will visit a couple of times a year and have always been so kind and thoughtful. At the wedding reception, I was kind of introduced to all the family. Eventually someone asked when my boyfriend and I were getting married, and my boyfriend just winked at the question because he knew I already knew that he was planning to propose soon. He just asked way too many ring related questions since he knows I hate diamonds, but wasn't sure the direction he should go in since I barely wear rings. He could propose to me with a ring pop for all I care. Later at one point, one of his cousins asked how I would feel about my future kid learning their native language, to which I responded, oh, I don't want kids, but I'm actually learning the language myself. There are a few members of the family around, including my boyfriend's parents. No boyfriend though, and they all gave me the "what the hell are you saying" look. I didn't understand why I was getting that look, so I just awkwardly laughed and asked everyone not to tell my boyfriend I was learning the language because I wanted to surprise him. I thought it would be cute to respond to his proposal in his native language. I went looking for my boyfriend and found his brother and the bride instead. We were talking and eventually I asked, hey, is it weird in your culture to not have kids? Because I got weird looks from your parents when I said I don't want kids. His brother proceeds to tell me that it's not weird, but that my boyfriend has always wanted to have kids, so it probably shocked their parents to hear that I didn't want kids. Apparently my boyfriend always wanted at least 3 kids, and he had always been super excited about the idea of having kids. I think his brother noticed the look on my face and backtracked a bit, saying something like, wait, fuck, it's not a big deal. He changed his mind because he loves you more than the idea of having kids. He sighed because apparently he had heard from his parents about what I said. He apologized about it and said that he did stop talking about kids since we've been together, but that his parents always assumed we would have kids. He also sometimes wonders if I would change my mind, but he doesn't think I ever will. He said that when we talked about this while we were dating, he could imagine a future without kids because he couldn't imagine a future without me. It's been a month since the wedding, but I've started to notice little things with my boyfriend. A lot of our friends have kids and I'm always letting my friends know they can bring their kids over instead of having to find a babysitter. I've noticed that my boyfriend looks slightly envious when he sees our friends interact with their kids, or sometimes I see him look slightly dejected when he sees a family with a bunch of kids. Maybe this is in my head now that I know he's always wanted to be a dad until he met me. Maybe it's not in my head. I truly want him to be happy, but I don't want to be a mum. I wish I felt different and I wish I could compromise this for him, but I would never want to bring kids into the world knowing I don't want them. That's not fair to the kid. And if him being happy means he finds someone else to have kids with, we'll have to live with that. He knows something is wrong because he said I feel far away lately. I think he knows why. I know I have to sit down with him and fully talk this out. Part of me feels like this conversation will lead us to breaking up because he truly does want kids. I'm also worried that if he stays with me, he might resent me for not wanting kids like him. I just feel terrible. Now obviously this is the true off my chest subreddit. It's not really seeking advice on this. We will cover a couple of comments, but I can only imagine them going down one path, and pretty much OP's already answered their own question in that they just need to talk this out. They sound like they've been very mature in their post up to this point, so I can't see it changing in the update, but we'll find out shortly. Responsible Fun says the kid no kid issue is very real and can cause incompatibility. I think you really need to press your boyfriend on this issue. Maybe take a 2 to 3 week break from him so he can experience life without you to judge for himself if he should stay with you or move on and find someone who wants children. In the end though, you can only listen to his words, watch his actions and probe his emotions after he sees other children or families. If he reassures you and you still have doubts, then a breakup may be the best option. Opie says yeah, that is the plan. Just been trying to gather my thoughts about everything so that I'm thinking with my head and not my heart. Organic Fan says I've been in the same situation as you. Don't want kids, never have. I had to end a past relationship for that very reason. I thought maybe I could do it for her, but in the end I couldn't. It's just a responsibility I never wanted to have. It's a hard decision to make, but it is the right one if you're not on the same page. There is no compromise in the kids/no kids scenario. Hope things work out for you two, but don't commit to something you don't want. You'll only regret it. OP says, I agree, there is no compromise. There is no concern over him pressuring me or me changing my mind for him. The idea of being pregnant has always been unsettling to me, so he knows that I do plan on getting surgery eventually. Doctors say I'm too young to make the decision. I thought the kids thing was settled, but he never talked about how important kids previously was to him, and we just don't talk about kids in our future talks. But after the wedding, I'm just noticing slight things with him, and I don't want him to live in regret. My concern is for him above all else. Variable Fact says, talk to him about you being scared, he'll resent you. He decided to give up on having kids because he loves you more than an idea of a life. Why don't you believe him? OP says, the plan is to talk to him, but I needed an outlet and hopefully advice about how to properly have this conversation so that I don't feel like he is setting aside his happiness for me. What I do believe is that he loves me more than life itself, and that he would jump in front of a bullet for me without a second thought. So I also believe that he would compromise something that he has always wanted just to make me happy, which can lead to resentment and regret later down the line. He always puts me first and will sometimes forget to think of himself, which is where I come in because I am always trying to think about him, which is why I'm concerned about talking to him regarding kids, because depending on his responses and body language, I might have to let him go so that he can actually be happy in the long term and not just the short term, if that makes sense. So OP does update the post. 2 days after my original post, my boyfriend and I sat down to talk finally. As I suspected, he knew exactly what had been bugging me, but he didn't want to push me to have the conversation before I was ready. He started off with why he's okay with not having kids. He grew up with his parents and brother. He saw the joy that his parents got from raising the two of them, but he also saw how unhappy they were in their marriage. Yes, they are still together, but they are more like co-parents and roommates than an actual couple. My boyfriend was very cynical when it came to relationships growing up because he felt like he never saw enough happy couples. His parents weren't happy. His friends were in and out of relationships. He was in and out of relationships. In his head, kids would bring him and his partner happiness and purpose in a relationship. Yes, he admitted to the absolute insanity that was his thinking, but when we started dating, he realized this and started going to therapy to help him work these feelings out. He's been in therapy ever since. When he said he met me, I changed everything for him and that he knew on our second date that he was going to marry me. So when months later I mentioned I didn't want kids, he was disappointed, but the main reason was because the idea of having little versions of me running around was something he had thought about for the months we were dating. And yes, he meant it when he said that he could see a future without kids, but couldn't see a future without me. That's why he had been super supportive about me looking into surgeries to prevent kids being a possibility for me. That's why he never even brings up the possibility of either one of us changing our minds. I asked if he was jealous of our friends with kids, and he laughed. He said that when he sees a family or sees our friends with their kids, he can see that the relationship between a parent and child is special, but the freedom that we have in our relationship along with the extra funds we have for ourselves far outweigh his past feelings about being a dad. He said that I was his family, and if I didn't want to increase the size of our family, then he has no problems with that because he's already so happy. He finally found the love of his life, which he never thought that would happen, so he doesn't want to mess with something that is perfect. He just never brought it up with his family and was slightly concerned that they would try to pressure us. Kids are a big thing in his family. His brother already knew and obviously had no problems with it. He said he had a talk with his parents and the relatives he was closest to about it. His parents are not exactly happy, but my boyfriend admitted to me that he lied to them and said he was the one who didn't want kids first. He just wasn't sure what their reaction would be and didn't want me to deal with any negative backlash. He said if I ever feel pressured about anything ever, whether it be by him or his family or even my family, to let him know because we are partners and we work through these things together. He isn't afraid of going no contact with anyone who makes a big deal about something that isn't any of their business. I told him that my main concern was that he was putting my happiness over his because he has a tendency to do that with people he loves, and I didn't want him to regret anything later down the line. He said he understood my concern, but that he swore up and down that these 4 years have been the happiest of his life. And the fact that I was so stressed about whether he was happy or not is further proof that we are meant for each other because I also have a tendency to put his happiness over my own. Lol. He then proposed to me with the original ring he bought the first year we were together. I didn't even know he had bought a ring before. He said he would have done it that first year, but I'd made a comment that I wanted to wait at least 3 years before getting engaged. And now he is making significantly more money, so he's been looking to go all out on a new ring. But I really love the ring he originally bought. It isn't big or flashy, but is a very unique design that is subtle and beautiful. The color is also the same color as my boyfriend's eyes, and I'm always gushing about them. He has the kindest eyes. So I told him there's no point in looking for another ring because this one was already perfect. Thanks to everyone who reached out and all the advice. This community really helped. Aww, and that was a nice little refreshing story for me, I think, and it's nice to see them talking out their problems like adults in this situation and really, expressing their feelings on the matter. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit from Mammoth Inside 2431 and says, am I the arsehole for telling my daughter I will not be walking her down the aisle unless she invites her siblings and their families to her wedding? I, 56 male, have 5 children. This is about 3 of them. Casey, 26 female, Alex, 31 non-binary, and Tom, 34 male. Their names are not their true names. My daughter Casey is getting married this winter to her fiance Max, 27 male, who she has been together with for about 4 years. I'm covering the majority of the wedding expenses as Max's family lives in a different country, and with the currency exchange rate, they won't be able to afford the wedding and both to come to the wedding. I have no issues with it and just want my little girl to be happy. Last week, Casey was away. My children, Alex and Tom, came to visit with their families and we were talking about wedding invitations. I was surprised to hear that they hadn't received their wedding invitations. So I just thought that Casey hadn't sent them out yet for everyone, until my oldest and youngest daughters pointed out that they received their invitations with their kids and partners invited. I called my sister, who also said Casey has invited their whole family to the wedding too, and she received hers a while back, so I immediately saw red. Both Alex and Tom have husbands and have children, adopted, and it seemed Casey has excluded them because of their choices. It also seemed weird, as Casey has always been close to them and supported them when they came out as non-binary and gay respectively. I've called Casey and demanded an explanation. My daughter said that Max and his family don't feel comfortable with couples that are not traditional and it goes against their culture, and that she hopes for my understanding. I told her if that's the case I will not be walking her down the aisle and pull out from paying for a wedding, as she cannot exclude her family like this when they did nothing wrong, and if her future in-laws' opinion is so important to her, they can pay for the wedding. As a result, Casey has called me an arsehole and hanged up crying. My children are on my side. My wife is torn as she understands where Casey comes from, but agrees she shouldn't have excluded her siblings like this. Edit. Just want to add something about my wife. When I said she is torn and gets where Casey is coming from, it doesn't mean that she supports Casey's decision to exclude her siblings. She doesn't approve of it in the slightest. However, as a mother of our children, she feels she should be there for all her children if they need her or want to talk. Even if she doesn't agree with their choices. She is still deeply hurt by what Casey has said, as she absolutely adores Alex and Tom's husbands and their children. And the top comment on this one pretty much sums it up. Crock of Pot says, not the arsehole. Casey can be bigoted on her own dime. I would never put my money into an event that discriminated against two of my kids like this. I also think it's pretty scummy that she didn't even have the guts to tell Alex and Tom they were being excluded. Hope you responded saying, I was confused when they told me about receiving no invitation. Both of them live in the same neighborhood, just a couple of houses away from each other. So they thought it is just the postman who lost the invitations or the depot. Cranky Kitty says, not the arsehole. It wouldn't just be the wedding. If the in-laws are this uncomfortable, then Alex and Tom will be excluded from every family event Casey hosts. Holidays, if she wants to host a holiday. Or birthday parties if she has kids. Any and all other events surrounding any kids they might have. Sports, graduations, ballet recitals. If Casey gives into this demand, she's effectively cutting off her own brothers. It won't be every event, as the in-laws live in another country, but it will be at least some of them. Why not invite everyone? Inform everyone of who is coming and let the uncomfortable ones stay home. It goes against your culture to exclude family members from a family event. Casey and her fiance have to make some tough decisions here. One more comment from Ali who says, I was fully prepared to deliver a "you're the arsehole" based on the title, but the reason they are not invited is heartbreaking and terrible. You should not foot the bill for a party that celebrates a union of your family and maxes if they don't accept your entire family. You're right if they think that they're entitled to dictate which family members of Casey's family are allowed to attend. They're the ones who should pay for it. Also, how terrible that Casey feels pressured to make a good impression on them when they obviously don't feel the need to extend the same courtesy in return. Good for you for standing up for your kids and their families. They're lucky to have a father who supports them and advocates for them. Not the arsehole, all the way. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story from No Sandwich 1817 who says, am I the arsehole for refusing to stop living my life for my kids? I got divorced a year ago. It was the best decision I ever made. I basically am made for the family. It was awful, not to mention was working at the same time. Overall, it has been a bit rough for the kids, with the youngest being 14 and the oldest being 17. They're doing well overall, and we basically have a 50-50 split with custody. It's wonderful to have days off, so much new free time when they are not home, so I've been able to explore new hobbies. So I joined a models club. You build models and show them off. We met once a month to show off our creations, and I love it. My 17-year-old messed up this week. Volunteered for a bake sale, didn't tell me and forgot to make cupcakes. I was about to leave for my meeting last night and he was panicking about not having it done. He asked me if I could do it and I told him no since I was leaving. He was also leaving to hang out with his friend. This morning cupcakes were not made since I wasn't doing it. We got into a huge fight about me not helping him out. I wasn't putting my life on hold for a simple mistake he did. He left for his father's and my ex got into an argument with me about it and called me a jerk. Thank you for all the feedback. I'm trying to teach him what the lesson I missed when married. Want more info on that? It is in a comment. If anyone has any ideas, I'm open for advice. I'm running out of time before college. And he's with a man, he learnt this behavior half the time. The other two are willing to learn, but he won't give an inch. Now there's so much wrong with the approach that he came to you with, volunteered for a bake sale himself and then forgot to make the cupcakes. That's two mistakes. If you're going to volunteer, you need to take part and then you forget to make the cupcakes anyway. And I could maybe understand, if he was really panicking and say, oh, I just totally forgot, there's a lot going on in my mind right now. Would you be able to help me make the cupcakes? Is there anything you can do? I beg. Something like that, But he asked you to make the cupcakes because he was going out with his mate and then starts a huge fight with you about you not helping him out. There's many ways to approach a situation where you've made a mistake and you want to try and rectify it. And it just seemed the 17-year-old, although they're young, it just seems that he made every wrong choice along the way. So it's a not the arsehole. But Evil of Odd says, not the arsehole. It's not your fault he volunteered himself to make cupcakes, forgot to inform you of this, neglected to make the cupcakes, and then chose to hang out with his friend when he could have cancelled and made the cupcakes. Your son needs to learn how to prioritize his responsibilities over his wants. He could have cancelled his plans with friends and learned that neglecting his responsibilities has consequences. And you know, cupcakes don't even take that long. He could have invited his friend over and they could have made cupcakes in an hour. But probably even quicker than that. Walnut with Teeth says, not the arsehole. He's 17, not 6. He should have asked before volunteering you. He should have told you when he volunteered you. He should have given you the date for your diary. He then should have helped you bake them. He could quite easily have gone to the store before school to cover his ass. Instead, he threw a toddler tantrum and ran to daddy's. Your ex should mind his business, as he has no longer any say in how you run your household. And the comments are pretty much the same, so we have one more from Jolly Tooth who says, not the arsehole, your son was irresponsible. You weren't. He's awfully entitled too. But beyond that, I think you're carrying a bit of trauma from your marriage and projecting it on your relationship with your kids. It was simple as saying, lack of planning on your part doesn't constitute an emergency on mine. No need to go all dramatic about how I'm not putting my life on hold for you. That was completely unnecessary. Now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What would you guys do in that situation? Would you consider making those cupcakes? Maybe you have a different opinion on the matter. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time, bloody incredible. Never forget that. You are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for being a part of it all. I really do appreciate you. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care. Much love.